What's good, YouTube? Just a Casual Nerd here, back with another video, and today we're going to talk about the Star Wars universe, more specifically, why Mace Windu should not return to the Star Wars universe. Now, I know everyone loves Mace Windu the Jedi, as well as would love Samuel Jackson to come back in the Star Wars universe to portray Mace Windu again. I know everyone liked him in the prequels, as well as in the Clone Wars, where they fleshed his character out even more. But today I'm going to give you 3 reasons why he should not return. Alright, so let's get right into it. Reason number 1. Death needs to mean something in the universe. In any story, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whether it's TV shows, really any type of medium, death needs to mean something in the universe that they're portraying. Because when it doesn't mean anything anymore, then the stakes of any encounter or of any issue is severely lowered. And we're already starting to see Star Wars head in that direction. We did see Darth Sidious in the last movie come back, and of course none of the fans really were a fan of him coming back, even if they had an explanation or a reason through, Snoke or whatnot. To me, it wasn't a good explanation, and Darth Sidious coming back, it really just kind of undid a lot of what was already done in the original trilogy, as well as some things in the sequel trilogy. It just really didn't make sense for him to come back. Of course, that's the biggest one. We did also see Darth Maul, who was seemingly killed in episode 1 of basically the Phantom Menace, and he did come back. Now I know people did like the fact that he came back in Clone Wars and got to have a story arc and got to do a lot more, which I agree. I did like a lot of things that he took part of in the Clone Wars series, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that Obi-Wan was getting kind of avenging his master in episode 1. It did kind of go back on that by bringing him back and having everything that he did between the Clone Wars and Rebels. But like I say, it was done well at the very least, though I'm still not a fan of characters who are supposedly being killed for a particular reason coming back in the Star Wars universe in particular. Because what will happen, you'll start to run into a problem that I find is problematic in the DBZ universe, or Dragon Ball Z, if you're not aware. When they kind of introduced the Dragon Balls and the fact that they can basically wish anyone back, it was just kind of like, all right, well, any encounter, if someone dies, they can just be wished back. Now I know there are some rules against that. Each Dragon Balls has their next set of rules, but the thing is, they can just always find apparently a new set of Dragon Balls. And it seems like with the Star Wars universe, there always seems to be another way for somebody to come back, whether it's mechanical reasons, whether it's through the Force or through clones. But I really believe that Star Wars need to still have characters that have seemingly died to stay dead for things to actually matter, for when problems occur or they dealing with a new enemy or villain. It still raises the stakes if we know that if something happens to said character, that they can't just come back through Force means or through a different clone or midichlorians or some type of cop out like that. And in the case of Mace Windu, Mace Windu was one of the first victims of Anakin turning to the dark side. He didn't directly kill Mace Windu, but if he didn't cut off his arm while he was about to strike Palpatine or Darth Sidious, then Mace Windu probably wouldn't have died in that scene. So yeah, Anakin didn't directly kill him, but indirectly. But it did signify, when he did that, it signified that there was a change in the Force from from the light to the dark side. It was a change of the balance, or I guess you could argue it was balancing out, since there was a lot more Jedi than, of course, dark side users due to the rule of 2 or whatnot. But still, that was a significant part in Anakin's journey. So kind of undoing that is also yet again undoing a part of Darth Vader's arc in becoming a villain. Alright, which leads me to reason number 2 that Mace Windu should not come back. Reason number 2 would be, look at what Disney does to legacy characters. We can take a look at Obi-Wan, we can take a look at Luke, or even Boba Fett. Every time that they bring these characters back, they don't really seem like they're the same character that they were before. All the good things that we liked about the character, it seems like they just got old and that part was stripped away. I'm not going to say they were entirely different characters, but they are very different. Now you may argue, well, it's character development or years have passed by, but it seems like a lot of times Disney changed core parts of the characters, the core parts that we know and love about the character. And if you're going to develop a character after so many years have passed, it needs to actually develop into something that makes sense for that character. And a part of Disney, it doesn't seem like the developments that they made for said characters doesn't make sense. We can start with Luke. And when we first introduced to Luke, in the original trilogy, he was all about, hope. He was all about seeing people for who they actually were. And in the sequel trilogy, it was like the exact opposite. He was not very hopeful. He didn't really see people for who they were. The exact opposite. He basically turned into a grumpy old man. So he basically divulged into something that he originally wasn't. We can look at Boba Fett. He was, even though he didn't get that much screen time in the original trilogy, he was a bounty hunter. He was like known as a ruthless bounty hunter, one of the top people. He's literally a guy who would talk back to Darth Vader. But when we see him in the Boba Fett series, he's almost a pacifist, and we didn't even see that when he showed up in the Mandalorian series as a cameo. So Boba Fett, even within that short amount of time, he just seemed like an entirely different character. Now, you can argue whether he should have been wanted to be like this underground ruler of Tatooine. I guess you can make that point. Even that, I wasn't really a fan of that being his goal, because I really didn't understand why that was his goal. Like a bounty hunter then wanted to control like the underground, and he's not really willing to do what it takes in order to rule the underground. In that case, he should have just, I don't know, ran for governor if he was going to go that route. So that part didn't totally make sense for me. And then, of course, you had Obi-Wan, who wasn't the strong in the force, witty person that we knew both in the sequel and original trilogy. In the Kenobi show, he was like the exact opposite of that for most of the series. And again, I know people are going to argue that, hey, just character development, or he was just at a down point in your life. Okay, I guess you can make that argument, but then my question is, if Disney was to bring Mace Windu back, what exactly would they do to him? Would they make him a grumpy old man? Would he even care about the Force anymore? Would he basically forsake the Force? I mean, you had Yoda in one of the sequel trilogy movies. He literally like struck down lightning on a Force tree, which I don't know where that ability came from, but I'm a casual, so it might have been in a book or a comic or something. But he literally struck down like that Force tree where Luke had spent time gathering Jedi archives. So what would Disney do to Mace Windu if he was brought back? Because I'm sure he would not be the same Mace Windu that we know and loved from either the Clone Wars series or the prequel trilogy. And that leads me to reason number 3 that Mace Windu should not come back in the Star Wars universe. What is he actually going to do? I mean, who is his enemy going to be? Or is he, if he's not going to have an enemy, who is he going to train? There's really nothing for him to do currently after his, demise in episode 3. There's no one really for him to train. Of course, you could add on, like, what's his name from the game, Cal Kestis. I mean, sure, you could have Mace Windu train him to be a better Jedi, but then leaves the question, where is that going to lead? Where is Cal Kestis supposed to do later on? Because of course he wasn't in the original trilogy, so where is he actually going to fit in a universe that we would care about, that would make sense? Of course, I guess you can have him doing smaller other things, the same way with Ezra from the Rebel series. He wasn't featured in the original, so he's, I guess, off doing something as well. But that's the kind of problem that Star Wars is in now. All they're doing is filling in gaps, but when you fill in so many gaps, it leaves you with having things not make sense in the original trilogy. Like, you dig yourself a bigger hole. In order to fix plot holes, you're kind of creating more plot holes. So especially if you're dealing with characters who have been a big part of the main universe, like Mace Windu. Now, if you did a series or something based on characters that we're not aware of, based on a planet where we never seen, that would be different. But we're talking about Mace Windu here. He was a big part of the Clone Wars. He was a general in the Clone Wars. He was a master Jedi. And even if you did have him do anything, if he's not hiding on a planet the same way like Yoda was, or if he's not hiding on a far away planet like Kenobi was, then he would definitely be sensed by Darth Vader or Darth Sidious, because he has, he was very strong in the Force. So again, you would have to go to either make a whole nother distant planet for him to be on, because he can't be on Coruscant, because I believe that's where Darth Sidious was, still doing all his governmental dealings and everything. Even though Darth Vader, his main thing was at Mustafar, but I'm sure he also came back to Coruscant as well. So there's nothing for him really to do, and I really don't want them to add any more Jedi, because then you're gonna keep undermining Order 66 if you just keep bringing back Jedi that survived Order 66. It undermines the severity that Order 66 had on the galaxy, because it was supposed to, quote unquote, wipe out the Jedi, which of course, there's going to be some that survives. It'll be hard to wipe out all of them. There's so many of them. But if each new story there are more Jedi are returning, then you're really undermining the emotional tones of the end of episode 3. And on top of that, it just raises more questions, because the more Jedi there are, and if they're using the Force in some form of capacity, then like, why aren't they feeling each other through the Force? And why didn't they connect more and then fight the Empire? So it just really undermines a lot of the storytelling that's already set in place, just simply bringing back more Jedi. So again, Mace Windu is left with nothing to do. He's not going to be fighting one of the major dark side Force users, because that would probably create plot holes. And Star Wars already has enough plot holes that they're literally creating in every new series that they make. So I don't think it would be a good time to create even more with bringing Mace Windu back. I think, unfortunately, as much as I want to see Samuel Jackson be Mace Windu again, it would just be better for the Star Wars universe if he just stayed dead for right now. But what are you even listening to me for anyway? I'm a casual. Cue the outro.